the Roselle and Friends talk show. Today we're looking at the rise of black-led or black majority churches in the UK and explore how these have reshaped the religious and social landscape of Britain. Now, undoubtedly, they have truly become part of the fabric of British society. The history of black majority churches in London especially is phenomenal because within a short period of time, only 60 years, they have grown from rejection to influence. And as a result of their explosive growth, these African and Caribbean churches have drawn the attention of scholars and the media alike. Britain today is a melting pot of racial blends, customs, colours and cuisines, not to mention the various religious diversities which evidence the UK's multiculturalism. Therefore, the twin forces of migration and globalization have greatly enhanced the UK's religious and cultural diversity. Black majority churches' growth began in earnest with the arrival of the Empire Windrush, the famous ship that brought Caribbean migrants in 1948. And since 1948, the new arrivals had different needs, which had to be met in ways that were different from the existing practices. It was those needs that signaled the creation of black majority churches, which started in the 1950s with immigrants from the Caribbean. They came to the UK as Christians and wanted to continue their ways of worship with churches in the country. However, on going to the British churches, they found the forms of worship were vastly different from their hometown in the Caribbean. They also found themselves to be sparsely mixed among the white majority churchgoers and felt out of place by the different protocols and procedures. In fact, one church member put it, "Within our Pentecostal churches, we were so used to shouting hallelujah in the middle of services and clapping really loudly that simply sitting quietly throughout the service didn't fill our souls." So, it was because of this they formed their own places of worship, beginning from their own sitting rooms in their homes. But this had its consequences. Once they began to move away from the white majority churches, it was thought that some people believed it to be a form of protest against the UK churches. But that wasn't the case, said one member. "We just wanted to worship God in the only way we knew how." Now, these home churches then became popular among settled and newly arrived immigrants. It created a need for more space. So they began to hire halls and community centres, nowadays school halls and warehouses. And they did that to hold their services of worship. With their popularity and growing numbers, even the community halls were not big enough. But these black majority churches began to buy properties which they formed into churches. One member said, "It was through this that black majority churches began, and we never looked back since." So, how have these churches impacted on the British Christian landscape? Various labels have been used by scholars to describe these developing phenomenon within the British Christian landscape. Some referred to them as black churches, minority ethnic churches, black majority churches, Windrush churches, African and Caribbean-led churches. These different labels alone not only suggest the levels of diversity within the church in the UK, but also the complexity associated with having a general opinion on how to identify these churches. But among the settled communities, they were generally referred to as black churches. This included African and Caribbean-led Pentecostal churches, as well as African or Caribbean independent churches. The result of this development is that the declining fortunes of Christianity in the public space in Britain were made less intense by the development of these black churches. In fact, the involvement and influence of black churches in various cities seemed to position them as a source of religious hope in Britain. For example, according to a London church census report in 2005 to 2012, there was 58% growth in total Pentecostal congregations in the borough of Southwark, and a 44% rise across Greater London. These percentage rises certainly contradicted them. In fact, not only inside the church spaces, but the public witness of black or migrant churches had contributed to the resurgence of Christianity in public discussions. And this took place in all urban cities in Britain. Moreover, research shows that the impact of black churches on general church attendance show the overall church attendance in England had greatly increased. Figures show that 48% of black people attend church regularly, 3 times the rate of the white community. So, what other factors enhanced the growth of black churches over the years? There are many factors. Immigration and economic aspirations. This is because the economic challenges of the African and Caribbean countries, war, famine, have resulted in travel to Britain. An interesting factor voiced from these churches is that they wanted to come and re-evangelize Britain. In other words, missions to Christianize in reverse. The irony here is Britain is the country that was once the hub of missionary enterprise to its former colonies in the mid-18th and 19th century. And here it is now seen as needing spiritual help from its former colonized migrants. I have to say that the claim of re-evangelizing the host country at times seemed to be rhetoric. It would seem that Britain's black churches might not have risen to the missionary challenges of their context, but they do challenge the dominance of European theology as being the normal theological lens of the Christian faith. So, what is the pulling power of these black churches? The movement is run by ordinary people, not your professional clergy. And every member of those communities is encouraged to be involved in ministry. Other pull factors is the worship experience. This is characterized by exuberant worship, clapping, and dancing in some cases. The preaching is quite dynamic and centered on meeting the social, religious, and cultural needs of their members. And although their form of worship is not written out, there is still a formalized procedure amongst most of Britain's black churches in a format which goes like this: praise and worship, prayers, reading from the Bible, testimony, preaching, dancing, clapping. And these are features that are reflective of the fluidity of African and Caribbean cultures in the expression of Christian faith. These churches are dynamic, but how do they contribute to the UK? They may not attract significant numbers of non-black members to their congregation, but these churches have become a significant social force in Britain. And this is due to the multiple functions of their operations, both to the members and to the larger British society. These contributions are seen as such. There's more concentration of black churches in London. Of course, this is probably due to the commercial nature of London as a city. Sometimes migrants find it easier to settle in cities because of the availability of employment and the concentration of people from their culture. It helps to make integration into the society a lot easier. It may also be because of the nature of London's cultural diversity. And it explains why international migration is not evenly spread across the regions of England. In fact, 74% of migrants go to London and another 12% to the southeast. So London then is the hub. Interestingly, there seems to be a greater concentration of African Christianity in South London than anywhere in the world outside of Africa, according to a senior academic. And most black churches in London Borough of Southwark are Pentecostal, featuring long services, characterized by exuberant and often loud worship, and many of the pastors are first-generation migrants to Britain. Research shows that the number of black majority churches in Southwark is so high that of the 240 of these churches, they are nearly twice as numerous as all other churches in the borough of Southwark put together. Isn't that marvelous? But what is the motivation behind these black churches? We talked about the fact that they're re-evangelizing in reverse. Revival, as already mentioned, many of them, the underlying motivation is to assist in the revival and the proclamation of the gospel in Britain, or at least to replicate what is presently happening in their own countries. Then you've got faith and culture. For most Africans and some other internationals, faith and culture are closely related. Then there is the fact that many of the black churches, they function as a cultural oasis where a person could meet people with the same or similar ethnic cultural background. The church helps them to remind them of their own country and their native culture. And these are places where people could meet friends with similar experiences. Among the many activities of the black churches is their inevitable involvement with members helping to negotiate their social and cultural identity in the new environment they find themselves. The churches, they help to facilitate social integration. They affirm the dignity of ethnic group members. They provide a home away from home. They also assist members to engage with the host society. Most black churches are actively validating the African and Caribbean identity through their sermons and their theologies. And it goes on. The churches help members to build identity by focusing on the positive contribution of black people to society. And we see that during Black History Month. Another way that these churches help to reinforce identity is through promotion of success-oriented theologies. So there's a link with faith and prayer with the expectation of material prosperity and success as well. Some of the black churches regard hard work and financial responsibility as necessary conditions for prosperity. One sociologist said that in the case of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, prosperity is more likely to be promoted in terms of management of monies, self-help, entrepreneurial effort, rather than the sort of USA-style faith teaching. The religious teachings on self-discipline and the need for good stewardship and a desire to succeed by these churches provide much required religious and psychological boost to members. However, the theological position of most of Britain's black churches on the prosperity gospel has been criticised. It's been criticised by evangelical scholars as text proofing and flagrant misreading of relevant scriptures. But that apart, there is a supporting network that is evident among the black churches. They function as a hub for restructuring or transforming the self-worth and the economic worth of their members. They share information about jobs, advice, in some cases free immigration advice, financial schemes even to alleviate personal problems like housing constraints. Many churches create schemes for saving, for sharing financial empowerment. Most black churches succeed in identifying the immediate challenges of their members. They provide training, they help to write letters, CVs, will writing support, housing, and educational initiatives. So the fact is, it is a multi-functioning hub indeed. And what is the contribution towards the community, and what is the social engagement? So apart from the various benefits to the members, these black churches are actually combining traditional methods of evangelizing with social action. So they provide welfare to their members. The Redeemed Church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, the RCCG, which a denomination from Nigeria, is now a missionary player across the globe. They invest in social and intellectual development within the communities that they're located in. In fact, in the 1980s and 1990s, saw the emergence of African newer Pentecostal churches. The 90s also witnessed the birth of independent Caribbean Pentecostal churches in London, and it is a trend that has continued to the present with churches such as Jesus House, which is a growing multicultural evangelical ministry that is the largest congregation in the RCCG. And you've got churches like Kingsway International Christian Church, KICC. You've got Ruach City Church and a host of others. They maintain a robust budget to cater for the needs of their communities. They have projects that address the poor, drug addiction, educational empowerment, skills development, youth development, and related community initiatives. All these are documented, and it involved black churches and their support to their local community. So, in other words, the black churches appears to have a holistic approach to meeting the spiritual, educational, social, and economic aspirations of the communities that they represent. Some of these services have been commended by public figures for their contributions to community development and cohesion right here in the UK. A typical example is the social engagement of Jesus House, which was founded in 1994 as a parish of RCCG. This church is in active collaboration with the Prince's Trust, and Prince Charles commended their work during his 59th birthday celebration at the church in November 2007. Part of the British fabric of society? Absolutely. Holistic approaches to developing members? Absolutely. So it is clearly documented in Christian records that the black churches have brought a fresh zeal to doing church and evangelism in Britain in their multi-functioning operations. They go beyond the provision of spiritual well-being for their members, because they are also actively engaged in the social well-being of their multicultural communities that now make their existence and performance indelibly etched into the fabric of British society. But it's not all plain sailing. changing immigration regulations have had appreciable impact on their growth. Therefore, to continue to ensure the longevity of the functions that these churches play, strategies must be developed and implemented to minimize the effects of unfavorable immigration policy on the growth of Black churches. And as far as the benefit to the UK is concerned, the benefit is 100% because they actually perform some of the functions of some governmental agencies in the United Kingdom. And for that and all that they do, one has to say, long may they reign. I take my hat off to the Black churches and commend them for the tremendous work that they do in helping the members of society to survive and to continue the faith. Thank you.
Phoenix Study Guides are a series of brilliant English books aimed at both children and adults. All books in this series are freestanding and focus on specific areas of learning, or you can work through to build excellent foundation skills for success in English. The Spelling Book. The book provides a simple, step-by-step method that helps students learn to read and spell through appealing activities, which provide very clear information to help you learn English spelling, reading, and writing rules via a graded approach. Vocabulary Book. This refreshingly, lively, easy approach vocabulary skills for students and teachers Volume 1 comes packed with 60 units of fun activities to boost your vocabulary, reinforced by 60 gap-filling tests with answers. The Grammar Book is a one-stop grammar guide loaded with helpful tips, worksheets and grammatical rules with 145 tests for students of all ages. Essential for SATs, ideal for all key stages 1 to 4. Clear, concise teaching methods and easy to follow techniques. An excellent resource for mastering subject terminology in GCSE English. Get your copy today. Or email eaglepublications58@gmail.com. Also available on Amazon and all good booksellers.
Welcome to this week's News Quiz, our current events program for children ages 7 to 12 and above. It's a new feature in this program, and a great many of you have said that you liked it. Thank you. So, we're going to kick off with the first one. Prithika?
Yes, and we also look forward to your own questions for our quiz show. But for now, here's question number 1. Which ocean is missing from this list of major oceans of the world? Pacific, Southern, Indian, Atlantic, and... The answer is the Arctic Ocean is missing.
And question number 2. It's not the first time that children have worn face masks to school. Can you say which masks they wore? Is it A, carnival masks, B, cloth masks, C, gas masks, and D, plastic masks? The answer is C, gas masks.
Question number 3. Why is COVID-19 virus called corona? Is it A, it makes you sneeze, B, it's shaped like a crown, C, it's named after a drink? Or D, it makes you cough? The answer is B, it's shaped like a crown.
This is the end of our quiz, but don't forget to send us your news and your own quiz questions from your area. Send them to roselle.friends@yahoo.co.uk, or if you prefer, you can go to our website, roselleandfriends.com. Let's see all your quizzes and your questions, please. See you next week. Bye-bye. The new Connect with Roselle app is here. You can watch this program whilst on the go, catch up on past episodes, access our list of courses and find one that's right for you, buy our books and resources. The Connect with Roselle app is easy to navigate. It's free to download from Google Play, or you can download it on the App Store.